Hi, my name is Timothy Liu, and I did Project 2, the RPG. So, in my program, I have two parent classes, the character parent class and the enemy parent class. The enemy parent class has two derived classes, the basic enemy class and the final boss class, and the character class has three derived classes, the Lord class, the Paladin class, and the Tactician class. So when the game, when you run the program, the game will prompt you with two options. You can load into a save file, or you can create a character. Once you create the character, if you decide to create a character, the program will execute into the game loop, and it'll run the battle simulation until either the enemy's HP gets 0 or the player's HP gets to 0. The game loop is speed based, at least for the basic enemy class. So if the player's speed is greater than or equal to the enemy's speed, the player will get the first attack, otherwise the enemy will get the first attack. The final boss game loop, the player always moves first regardless of speed. And yeah, that's about it for about like a general overview of the program. Now we run the program, we can just like see how it works. So here we're prompted with pressing A or another key. So if we press A here, it will take us to the character selection and the description of the description of each class. So if we press 1, it'll make us the Lord class. If we press anything that's not A, that's like a confirmation message. So if we press anything other than A, it takes us back to the character selection. So we press 1 and we'll press A to confirm, and then we'll need to input a name for the file. So let's just do like AS. So the first enemy in this game is generated to have a higher speed than the character or the player, so that's why here the enemy does damage and you lose HP there. So on our options, we're prompted with either attacking, healing, or buying healing items. So if we press 2, it'll ask if we want an elixir. So we can say, let's say A, or let's just say S for now. That'll say decided not to use an elixir, and your elixir counts the same. Press 2, press A. We use the elixir and our HP is back to full, like right here. And our elixir total is updated here and here. If we decide to use an elixir with none left, it'll say no elixirs left, and it takes us back to our turn. And if we press 3, oh, the program died. Yeah, our play kind of just died there. Okay, so we're back here. We have, if we press 3, it'll ask if we want to buy elixirs. If we press Q, the shop closes. If we press anything other than Q, it'll ask how many we want to buy. If you enter a number that's higher than the amount you can buy, you get this message: insufficient gold, and your gold count remains the same. Elixirs are 500 gold each, so we can theoretically buy up to 2, but because we entered 3, 1500 is greater than 1000, so we can't buy that much. So if we do that again but enter 2, it says we purchased 2 elixirs and there's 0 gold left because we used 1000 gold. Elixir total updates here, adding 2 to the 1 we already had, that was right here, and now we have 0 gold. So now we just attack. And here it says we leveled up and we gained some stats. Yeah, so basically once our experience is equal to 100, we will level up. That is right here. And after every attack we do, we get 25 XP. So after 4 attacks, we'll level up. So yeah, this is that adds XP to the player's XP count. This raises the stats, and this is just like a level up. It like resets the experience and stuff. So then here, we will just attack here, and boom, we did 7 damage, and their HP's down to 0, and they've been defeated. And the program, or the battle sequence is over. And these are just the things you get for defeating the boss, or defeating the floor. Each class gets like unique weapons, and yeah, they get unique weapons after each, or clearing each floor, and the weapons get progressively stronger as you beat the floor. So now we'll just enter a file name. Yeah, and it'll update. So here, because our speed is higher than Midway's here, we will move first, which is yeah, it's this loop right here, or not this loop. This if statement, it runs this block of code. So yeah, and as you can see, we had 0 gold before, but the 2,000 we earned here is now updated to here, and yeah. So if we try to, so we save that file as as.txt over here. So we can, if we press any other key that's not A, so we press S, it asks us for a save. So over here I have some preloaded saves: a.txt, as.txt, asd.txt, asd.txt.txt, and f.txt. So if I enter S, it'll say it can't find the file, and it'll terminate the program. So let's try it with a file that exists. So let's do as.txt, and as you can see, we're back to Midway with all our gold, elixir, all that stuff. The way that the program knows that is based on the number that's right here. So this number is this is the stage level number, and when reading in, when the program reads in from the file, it'll read this first line over here, which is the class, and depending on what the class name is, it will assign the character pointer to whatever class pointer it needs to be. So in this case, it was the Lord class, so it assigned it to the Lord pointer, and then just inputted all those values in, and that's where we are here. The way the damage, okay, so the way the player's turn goes, okay, so so let's go through the basic loop. So the basic loop, so this is a function that determines whether the player dies or not. Similarly, this function here determines whether the enemy dies or not, the basic enemy in this case. So if either one of those checks are true, then it will terminate the program, or it'll terminate the loop, and it'll say that whichever like statement is executed, that I guess character will die. So if this executes, then the enemy dies, and then the player gets to go to the next floor. But if this executes, the player dies and the program's terminated. So this loop right here is basically so damage is set to this function right here. This function is the player turn, it's this thing right here. It's like this thing right here. So basically the way it works is if you enter 2 or 3, you'll return 0, and because that's like if the damage the damage is equal to 0, so this is equal to 0, it'll run this, and that's why you keep getting your turn. When you do either one of those, because it returns 0. If it doesn't return 0, so if you attack, it'll return a value that's not 0, and then the game loop just continues. For damage calculations, for the player, there's this right here, which is an integer that calculates a random value given by the seed, and this is the crit rate. And the crit rate, if the random value from the seed is smaller than or equal to the crit rate, then the player will crit doing this amount of damage. It'll also output a message that says you perform the critical hit. And the way that the damage is calculated is through this right here, player damage minus the enemy's defense. So in this case, this is the critical hit calculation, and this is just like a normal hit calculation. After every attack, the player will get 25 XP, and after getting 100 XP or 4 attacks, then they'll level up with a chance to level up stats. And those like the chances of raising each stat is dependent on the class you're playing as. The way the program knows which stage to load the player into is through this value right here. So because that value is 1, it'll execute this block of code. And for this instance, we have this is the game loop. So if the player is victorious, it breaks out of that loop and runs the rest of this. So this first line after the game loop is basically just incrementing the stage number by 1. So this value becomes a 2, and if you die or you like terminate the program, you'll if you reload the save, it'll load you into the second stage instead of the first stage. Well, after this executes, of course, but yeah. This right here, this basically just, oh wait, not that one, this function right here, this basically just heals you to full HP after you complete a stage. This function right here adds 2,000 gold to your current gold, and then this gives you a stronger weapon. You get a new weapon after each floor, and those weapons get stronger as you clear a higher level floor. And the weapons change between classes. So like for a paladin, if you clear stage 2, you'd get an iron axe, whereas for the lord class, you get an iron sword. And then this function right here just saves those updated values into the file. And this is just different. I mean, yeah, this is just the same. It's just the same except with different stages. So for raising the stats, this right here, so that's in these classes. It's a virtual function in the character parent class, but basically we have these, and the random value, as mentioned before, is generated by the seed. And if that value is, I mean, it's 4 instances of it, so if it's any of these, if the random value meets the criteria of that if statement, it'll raise the player's stats. So there's the stats or the growths for tactician, this is the growths for the paladin, and this is the growths for the lord. 15 damage, and we had 2 HP, so we died.